Hello again, book lovers. This was intended to be a review of Michel Foucault's Discipline and Punish, The Birth of the Prison, which is my third stab at postmodernist text. I finished Baudrillard's Simulacra and the Simulacrum, or whatever it was, and think I deserve a medal for that. The best thing about it being the title, which I can only half recall. That seemed to hammer a point in a way that to me wasn't clever, but clever, wasn't analytic, but over-analytic. Prior to that I'd read Debord long time ago, and found The Society of the Spectacle quite interesting, though that's probably because it was short, and now that I look back on the text, it seems to trudge through the same sort of Marxist polysyllabic paragraphs. In any case, I thought, okay, I'll give it another go, because, you know, there has to be something there. As Roger Scruton once wrote, and he's not a person I agree with a lot, quote, "A writer who says that there are no truths, or that all truth is merely relative, is asking you not to believe him, so don't," end quote. That's always been the nagging question at the back of my mind when I read these sort of things. So here we go. Starts off okay. There's a sort of run through of some horrible punishments and how punishment was supposed to reflect the crime in medieval France more than anywhere, and told quite well, I thought, from a medieval mindset. There's no presentism for the moment. But I very early noticed that everything was being analysed in terms of power dynamics. Well, I guess that's what books do, don't they? This is Foucault saying, look at the world through my lens, this is it. Okay, so we move on to some interesting stuff about the change in meaning of atrocité. However, my notes begin to include question marks here, as after this I've written but almost 2 pages, question marks. And although there's some almost interesting reasoning as to the hows and whys of laws intended to stop vagabonds looting in 17th century France and London, the historical part is okay, but that sort of became a little bit more diluted as it went on, and we waded through paragraphs of 2 pages or more. There's a review of 18th century French legal debates, which I'm sure some unfortunate students still have to read. And I think the end was coming near when I got to, I turned a page, and you know how sometimes there's like a blank page between chapters. I saw the blank page and thought, thank God, that's another couple of pages I won't have to read. However, I stumbled on through The Spectacle of the Scaffold, which is the first one, Generalised Punishment, The Gentle Way in Punishment, and got as far as Docile Bodies. Very nice, intriguing chapter titles, which you think, oh, this would be good. And then you read stuff like this. Here, Monsieur Foucault is explaining the fourth of his essential points necessary for control of activity. So, and this is the body-object articulation. He's talking about instructions given to assemble a rifle, which he quotes: bring the weapon forward in 3 stages, raise the rifle with the right hand, bringing it close to the body so as to hold it perpendicular with the right knee, etc, etc. It just goes on. And at the end of which it says, this is an example of what might be called the instrumental coding of the body. And I almost never write things in books, but here I wrote in the margin, no, it's instructions on how to assemble a rifle, you buffoon. Which is pretty much where I stopped. Glancing at the succeeding words, we get this. It consists of a breakdown of the total gesture, blah blah blah, brackets, right hand, left hand, different fingers of the hand, knee, eye, elbow, etc, close brackets, and that of the parts of the object manipulated. Then he gives us a long example of those as well, and then the gestures, and then I thought, no, I just don't see the point of it. I've tried, Lord knows I've tried, and the worst thing is I've got a spanking new Acts of Literature by Jacques Derrida as a follow-up, which I now regret having spent so much money on. And I've dipped into it several times. It's a series of lectures, and the start of every lecture annoys me. And I can't imagine who sits there in the audience and listens to this. Here's one, I thought, Ulysses Gramophone, again, fantastic title, I've got to like this, surely. And this is the script of the opening address at the 9th International James Joyce Symposium in Frankfurt in 1984. Right, so here he goes. And it says here, we, translators note, this is in italics, you are receiving me, these are French words. We already have a footnote. To be sure, and I do not even need to reinforce my message with another phrase, all you need is to have heard the first word, oui, which is also italicized, to know, that is if you understand enough French, that thanks to the authorization graciously bestowed on me by, good lord, people presumably stayed awake, because it goes on and on and on. Later on he says, so you still do not know what I wanted to say or do when I began with this sentence, oui, you are receiving me, these are French words, close quotes. In fact, you are not receiving me loud and clear at all. Good lord, is this the joke? The other thing is, the answer to the question is staring us in the face in the printed version. It's italicized, so there's no real confusion about it. So, yeah, summing up, let this be a warning. There are better things to do with your time than read Postmodernists. But allow me to quote, go on one more, page 145 of Discipline and Punish in my edition. In discipline, and it's all like this more or less, in discipline the elements are interchangeable since each is defined by the place it occupies in a series and by the gap that separates it from the others. The unit is, therefore, neither the territory, brackets, unit of domination, close brackets, nor the place, brackets, unit of residence, close brackets, but the rank, italicized, colon, the place one occupies in a classification, the point at which, if you're still awake, congratulations. I think it's time to finish here.